All right, I'll call the regular meeting of the Anderson County Commissioners Court to order on August the 14th, 2023 at 9:30. Show that we do have a quorum present. All members of the court are present in the courtroom. Next item on the agenda is invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Jacob, would you lead us in invocation? Y'all stand with me.
Heavenly Father, Lord, just pray that you'll be with us today as we make decisions for the county, Lord. Just pray that they're pleasing to you, Lord. Just pray that you'll just guide and direct us in our hearts and our minds, Lord. Just pray that you'll just direct us in the right direction for what you want us to do, Lord. And pray for the men and women that fight for this country, Lord. Just be with them, comfort their families, Lord. Just get them home safe. Pray that you continue to bless our county, Lord. Just pray for rain. We really need it bad. Pray that you'll be with us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Y'all join me in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have anybody signed up to open forum this morning? Okay, no public comment. We'll move to the consent agenda. Item number 4. The consent agenda is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted with one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items. However, any consent agenda item may be removed for individual consideration pursuant to the request by a Commissioners Court member. And we got budget amendments. Bills and do we have any utilities across the county road anywhere?
No, sir.
No, sir, I have none.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, all right. And the budget amendments are numbered 87 through 93. And we have the minutes of the regular meetings, July the 24th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Judge, before we do, I got a bill here I'd just like to ask a question about. Some UCS blade equipment for IT for the 65,972.11 coming out of capital outlay. Is there, 2 questions. What is that? Second question, can it come out of the county computer services? We've still got quite a bit of money left in there.
I think the court already approved that, and I did a budget amendment out of county computer services into capital outlay to take care of that.
That's the way it needs to be done?
Yes, it needs to be capitalized. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the court already approved it.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes. So, all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second?
There was a budget amendment that came out of county computer services into capital outlay to take care of that
Second
bill.
by Commissioner Dixon.
I'm sorry?
All in favor say
It
aye.
came out of county computer services.
All opposed?
Yes,
So
sir.
ordered.
It was a budget amendment several weeks ago.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Yes, sir.
Before we go any further, I wanted to, let's see. I made copies of this for everyone. I need to apologize to the court on this one. Just an oversight mistake. But Kathy brought down a request for the agenda. We already had it on the agenda because Lisa left for some vacation days. And so Nita was in there. She handed it to Nita. And I think I glanced at it, but I already had it on the agenda and I didn't realize there was a little wording added. So I apologize for that. So I made a mistake. How many elected officials have you heard admit in public that they made a mistake? So I'm just telling you it was an honest mistake and I apologize for it, okay? So, and y'all can see that how that may happen, okay? But Lisa was not here She came in Sunday evening to put all the packets together. I stayed till 9 on Friday, making copies and going through and making sure I had all the emails and stuff that needed to be on the agenda for the commissioners, okay? So I just want to apologize for that. One other thing, and I've got copies, something we hadn't had a chance to talk about, so I put it on there so we can talk about it on Wednesday, and I've got a copy on it. I've got a copy. In case we're getting questions, I want everybody to be on the same page. So this is the appraisals district budget, so everybody's got a copy of it. And I'll just tell you, we split the fees, but I haven't had a chance to kind of delve off into this, and so I thought, since Commissioner Chapin's a member on the board, I thought maybe he could help us with that a little bit, maybe on Wednesday, just have a little discussion and what the changes were. And so, I did just an addendum to the Commissioners Court meeting. And I'd put that on there and corrected it, but I'd already done this, so, and it was past the time. So. But I couldn't email this to anybody, because if I send an email to the court and somebody replies, then that's violation of the Open Meetings Act. So, okay, so I didn't want anybody to get in trouble on that, or me. So, did everybody get a copy of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I want to make sure, I didn't know if you had a copy of the budget, so I was trying to make sure you had that too. And I know y'all were working on computer stuff, and you talked to me about that, so I thought maybe you could kind of tell us what happened on that, okay? And kind of just maybe some highlights on their budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And that way, if something comes up, at least we're kind of on the same page if somebody starts asking questions. And I'm getting a lot of questions, so. All right, next item on the agenda is take action on an information technology vendor policy for Anderson County. I sent those to Kathy, and I think she sent all those to y'all, so y'all can review them over the weekend. And,
You skipped 5, Judge.
Number
You
5.
skipped number 5.
I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. All right, consider and take action on the submission of, so this is item number 5. Consider and take action on the submission of the Anderson County cybersecurity training certification for the state and local governments in accordance with section 2054.5191 in the government code. And something that IT was been working on, and Mike did a good job on that, but we have to be, there's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, there was 2 grants that we would potentially lose if we weren't 100%.
Yes, sir.
So we were actually 100% by June. We were ahead of schedule. And I wanted this, and I had to go into the system with the state and confirm that we were 100%. Because we weren't last year, and they gave us till this year to get 100%. So I just want to make sure that's in the record. Did you get a copy of that? Did you get a copy of the 100%? Okay, all right. Did y'all get that in your packet?
I don't, yeah, here it is.
Okay.
Is that it right there?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Now, there's actually a certification document that I printed from the state, so I can get it in the record with the list. Now, we're audited, somebody comes, and at the time I filed this, it was 100%.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is we get new employees, changes in employment, then
How long did we have to do that? So you got done in June? What timeline did they give us?
Mike said July 31st. But I told him we need to get it sooner
No,
than
he
that.
did
I
it.
want it done and out of the way and not at the last minute.
No, he did a good job.
So he
sent
did
out
a
lot
good
of
job on
emails.
making sure that all happened. And,
No, he did, that's for sure.
so, but this is what the certification online looks like. So I wanted to enter that with the list in a minute.
No, that's fine.
Did you get that? Okay.
I'm fixing to give you this one.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess this one for you. That one's got the certification. Yes, sir.
Hand me my other.
All we needed to do was just put that in the record. So I'll entertain a motion to approve for the record the submission of the cybersecurity training certification showing that we were 100% for the state and local governments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Okay. All right, item number 6, consider to take action on information technology vendor policy for Anderson County. Everybody got a copy of that, right? I'd like to put that in some slides, but I didn't have a chance to do that. So, now, actually, IT started working on this. We've been working on it for a good period of time. We try to get different resources, check with other counties to try to compare and see what somebody might have. There wasn't a whole lot of vendor policies that some of the other counties had, but they did find a little bit of information, kind of some bullet points. So they started just putting this together with information that they understood was important issues to make sure it was in our policy. And then we sent this, and Tex and Mike worked on this. Tex did a lot of the putting this together. But we sent this to Texas Association of County Cybersecurity Risk Department, the director, and then we just had it reviewed also. Let me get his name here. I was trying to remember what it was. We just had a conference just the other day. Brandon Armstrong. They just assigned him in a cybersecurity risk consultant with TAC, and he got a copy of it so he could kind of give us input. They sent us some suggestions. Of course, they can't give us legal advice, okay? But they sent some suggested language. Tex went in and included that in here. Once we got the policy where we felt like it was, after all the collaboration with them, we felt like we had a good policy. Then I sent it to Eric McGee and I sent it to Allison. And both of them felt like the policy looked good. So we've got our attorneys, both general counsel and our district attorney. I understand, but they can't give us legal advice. She gave suggestions, but she couldn't do that, okay? All right, so the attorneys have looked over it and approved it, and I think it covers making sure we're secure, but it doesn't back us in a corner where we can't work with who we need to work with. You know, it gives us enough protection, but it gives us a little bit of latitude to try to make sure we're protecting our data. So, any questions of me?
So
Is that
this one was revised after, David looked at it too after August the 3rd, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Last week, we were getting first of the week maybe. We got the information back with the suggestions and all.
Right.
Either the end of last week or the first of this.
Yeah, last week we got back
From Mr.
several.
Cleveland with East Texas Council of Governments, their IT.
Oh yes,
It was-
We sent it to David,
On August the
It
3rd,
was-
I know he was sending back some
but they
information.
never sent any responses for it.
I don't remember. I don't think I sent it to David from myself.
No,
I-
Mike did,
Oh, did he?
because I had
Yes,
where
he did.
CC
Okay.
to Mike, myself, and
Okay.
Judge, and then I got David's response.
Okay.
Yes.
So the last 2 weeks, that's how it came together. We were trying, I said, I promised the commissioners this would be on the 14th. And so we got to get it in place. So we went through the process of letting everybody give suggestions.
Yeah.
And that language that was suggested, a lot of that was put in here.
And most of the time that it took over the past months was literally starting from scratch and just finding documents, finding things other people had, and I mean, just line by line trying to create something before we, send it off. Yeah, so it took quite a bit of time, but I apologize how long it took.
Okay, so,
And what I basically read, it was protecting our data, but also stating that the data was ours for as what they, how they stored it on their computers or whatever it is. No matter what, legally, the information was ours. It's supposed to be encrypted where we can understand it.
Right, anything that leaves our network has to be encrypted in transit and at rest, wherever it's gonna be. So we would not entertain any vendors in any capacity that would have, regardless of what the category is, whether we're talking about disaster recovery or anything. If they're not encrypting it, that's one of the components we require.
and they've been working on stuff that we're gonna show you in just a minute on the next item, but I told them we're not entering in anything with a vendor on IT until we got a vendor policy that protects us and sets down the perimeters, the responsibility of both the vendor and our responsibility, and how. So, I mean, I think it's good, comprehensive. We've had a lot of good suggestions that help build this thing from the attorneys and tax. So,
That was gonna be my next question. I wanted to ask one question about what I seen here, and from the final standpoint, just one question. There's not any wording, and this is specifically to the IT department. So Mike's not here to text, you have to speak on this.
Sure.
There's not any specific language that has been put in place in here that's gonna block a vendor from accepting, working with us due to what we wrote up in our vendor policy.
Can you
So
be more
are you
specific?
saying there's-
I don't
Okay,
understand.
what I'm asking is like,
I think I understand.
Say for instance, say we just drop down and say 4A. I'm just using that as an example.
Sure.
Okay.
4A doesn't have any language in it that would make a vendor who we may feel like working with say, oh no, due to y'all policy, I'm not gonna work with y'all because that
Right.
binds us to certain things.
Right.
Is
Yeah,
there
so
any
for-
language in this policy that y'all have developed or anyone has reviewed, went through and looked at that's gonna block a outside vendor from wanting to work with us?
I guess I'm still, so what you're saying is there's nothing that
Sometime we
will
can
block
put-
it, or what if they say, I
We
don't
can
want
put
to?
chokeholds in place that will stop a business from wanting to conduct business with us.
Yeah. So like, in other
Let
words,
me
it's
speak
two.
on it just a second, okay? Because that was what I was saying earlier. It gives us enough protection, but it doesn't back us in the corner where we don't have a latitude enough to work with a vendor. Okay? In other words, it doesn't, just what you're saying. We were trying to make sure we weren't preventing a vendor from, putting so much language in there, so restrictive.
Too many strongholds.
That no vendor's gonna wanna do business with.
Yes.
And that, we had those discussions, and actually 4A, that came from tax.
Well, no, I was just using that as an
I understand.
example, but I mean, I think there may be a
Well,
different.
like
y'all speaking
item
on
number
that,
here that could
if you look down
allude
to
that.
6I,
I didn't bring
6I,
a copy of it.
it said provide, huh? You got it.
Get a copy to the text. I'll make a copy.
Here's, I've got an extra here.
Okay, since y'all brought that up, this be a quick.
6 what?
6I. Yes, sir. It says, provide evidence such as a signed affidavit to the county that people who have access to the information system or information data have not ever been convicted of a felony, criminal crime, any drug offense, or family violence. How does that gonna work with like a company that we work with, you do business with, that has hundreds of employees, Microsoft, whoever you work with? How does that come into play there if they say, we're not providing you with an affidavit on all of our employees? I know it says the ones that are gonna have touch with the system, but they still have to sign that.
There's a component of having our data that we've actually been talking to when we talk to vendors, and you'll see it in the next presentation, but one of the questions we have to vendors is, are you going to have access to our data? And anybody because there's a difference between a vendor that can store data and access your data. And that's
Because when they store that data, it can be stored in an encrypted file where they can't actually read or see what's in that file.
Right.
But they're able to store it for us and
Correct.
give it back to us in the understanding that we can have it all legible to read and
Right,
break it down.
yeah,
to
we would
what
have a
need to.
key, yeah, the keys
So
are
that's
managed.
where I'm getting at, because if you block a company and you've sent data to them in that form and nobody can read it, but you said they can't have family violence or anything else, you don't know if someone went through a divorce at work for that company, might be a top exec or something, and
Right.
anything could have happened when people were leaving the home and those charges have been brought up. So that
Yeah.
is what you would call, just say for instance, you or I. There'd be any measure if one of us had a divorce with our wives, both of us are married.
Right,
And say she's going off the hinges at the current moment, and she's wanting all her stuff and the kids, or just wanting you to be gone from the house. Law enforcement comes out there, and we have law enforcement here. 9 times out of 10, you and I are going to be the one that have to leave, and we may not actually be in wrong.
Right.
But there could be some family violence come up right there.
So, and that's a great point. That was one of the people that I consulted with was from the sheriff's office, and we were talking about the companies that we do business with, and that was one of the recommendations. I was trying to come up to, if we were going to address criminality and how it pertains to our data, I'm not qualified to make that determination. So when I asked the sheriff's office, I spoke specifically to Jay, and he was making some recommendations, and we talked for a good
Jay
length.
Russell?
Jay Russell, yeah.
Okay.
And we talked at good length about it. And so I was, at the end, it was kind of like, all right, well, so what wording am I supposed to use? I mean, because there's a broad range of things that he thought was necessary to say, you know what, we don't want vendors that are going to do X, Y, and Z. And so at the end of it, this is what he recommended. And that's why it's in there, was because it was at the recommendation of people that are more qualified than I am.
And you're gonna see there's gonna be,
So, but you're bringing up a great point. How do I, at what point is it legitimate or illegitimate? Was it a red flag law, so to speak? I know we don't have them, but the concept is it somebody raised a red flag on somebody and now that person's in trouble and they didn't do anything? I get it. That's a great
You say
point.
drug offense, and that was my only thing when I read it when Ms. Cleveland said it back. You say drug offense. I mean, they may have, these are IT people. These are tech savvy people. These kind of people here, they may not resort to drinking. Like you or I or anybody on the court may get off work and may have a shot of scotch or bourbon to relax our nerves after a heated event. These are people who are so brain savvy, they might need a joint, and they might have been pulled over. I'm just going to tell the truth. They might have been pulled over with
I can't justify
one
that.
little
I
thing
ain't
of
put those
marijuana,
people in
and
jail.
marijuana probably in the next 5 years is going to be legal in the land of the United States. You never know that, but I'm just saying. And you're blocking people from doing that kind of work. And those are the kind of drugs the technology people tend to go to. They're not meth heads.
Right.
They're going to smoke something. You're in that field. You know what
Look,
I'm
no,
talking about.
wait a minute.
I'm
No.
not saying you, but I'm just
Wait a
saying.
minute.
I'm just saying. I'm just being realistic.
Just Commissioner, you have to understand, I get to see them kind of month to month.
But I'm being realistic. Okay?
And the sheriff gets to put them in jail, and sometimes I have to commit them to jails.
So no, you're bringing up great
those are
points.
misdemeanors now.
One of the I mean, this was all, I mean, I've worked security for a long time. You've known me for a long time. I used to work at Walmart doing asset protection, and the whole balance was restriction and security versus convenience. And that it's one of those ropes that you're trying to walk, and it's constantly moving on you. So if that's something that, if that's something, I don't get to decide
Let me just
every
say
word
this.
on it, so.
Let me
I just
say
think
this.
those two should be scratched off at the
This
end.
is kind of the restriction that you would have to be able to be a telecommunicator or a jailer or a peace officer. So I'm sure that's what.
Well, yes,
Jay
I-
does the background, so that's what I'm thinking he's thinking.
Yeah, a lot of and I apologize, and I should have brought that up, is that our system contains the segmentation of our data is such that because we have criminal justice from, inception to disposition, every part of our network has data on it that CJI could say, hey, this is, because you have this on your data, only certain people are allowed to see it. Only certain people have passed certain background checks and this and that. And so that was one of the reasons. Yeah.
And the other thing is, all of our human resource data, they're gonna have dates of birth, social security numbers, driver's license numbers. They're gonna have direct deposit accounts. So, yeah, I mean,
Well, they said the CJIS program is what protects our data for the most part, if anybody's got access to it, because they say, like even Microsoft, they will hire some of the reformed felons coming out of these prisons that have been sentenced to felonies for that kind of approach, because they're the masterminds behind it. And they'll put them to work in there, but even though they still carry that mark, they're still working for these big companies that we're having to, access, or having access to our stuff, so.
So, and my understanding of the way, if I called Microsoft today and said, hey, there's a document that I need you to get and send to me, they can't do that. The way I understand it to be, they can help you reset passwords, they can help you get a data center set up, but they don't actually have the ability to go in, open up our files and start looking at them. If it wasn't the case, and I'll say that if this is something, you're bringing up points that are 100% valid. Thinking about Microsoft, that is a huge company that accesses a ton of stuff. I mean, and they're constantly tracking things that people do all over the place. And so if that's something that at some point we find out isn't going to meet this criteria, we would immediately ask them what kind of tier do we need to be on to meet that criteria, and if there's some kind of an impasse that we come to where we'll have to bring it before the court and decide what it is that we're going to do, because it's important.
I have a question right here on number 3. Down at the bottom, it says a requester of a third-party connection must demonstrate a compelling business need for the connection. The request must be approved and implemented by the IT director.
Yes.
So does that say if the court approves it, then the IT director can say no, we're not, or what does that explain what that means?
And that's a good point. So this was actually pulled from a policy that I got from, I can't remember what county it was, but it wasn't a vendor policy. It was it was called a third-party connection policy. The idea was that if something's going to be touching our network, if something is going to be plugged into our network, the IT department ought to be involved with that connection and the approval process, because it's that important. There's a lot of components that are working in there that without the expertise of the IT director, it's not prudent to plug something in. So when if a elected official buys a computer and brings it and plugs it right into our network, that's something that the IT department would shut down. And even if that elected official wants it on the network, I'm sorry, but the network is the IT department's jurisdiction, and in order to protect it, it's more than it's
if somebody
the right
comes
thing to do.
in, let's put it this way, let's say that one of us wants somebody to have access to our network, okay? Whether it's me or anybody else. There's certain requirements of state and federal law. It's just like if somebody told them, because this did happen, to give this person access to the system, but they don't have anybody that works in our department has got to be vetted through the sheriff's office. Anybody that walks in there and touches our data in IT has to have a criminal background, and actually recently they did not just a criminal background, but they did a background like they would for a peace officer, jailer, or telecommunicator. So they did a complete background, even went to the DA to make sure they were okay. So that's how important it is to make sure our data is protected. Because if you give access to somebody, and they've got access, if somebody gets access to our payroll records, I mean, that could hurt any one of us that works here at the county.
I'd like to bring up another point, if you don't mind.
So, but just let me finish.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter if I even walk in there and tell them, give them access. They can't give them access legally, or they're violating the law to a certain extent, and they're compromising our data. So they're kind of like a deputy sheriff following the law. There's certain things that they've got to do. And so I just want the court to understand that. That's how sensitive this stuff is. So
Yeah,
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
before, I'm not cutting you off,
no, you're right.
but it's echoing what Judge is talking about. If I'm not mistaken, and he's no longer alive and with us at the moment, but Judge Davis, when we were implementing, probably about 12 years ago, we were implementing Tyler Technologies for the Justice of the Peace courts. All JPs had to sign up and be on that. I think the software in the program wasn't integrated enough, and they didn't have the training set up where they would be with all JPs at all times. So they were going to be with them one JP 1 week, 2 weeks, and then go to the next JP. And during the times of the training, I think it wasn't feasible for Judge or something like that. If I'm not mistaken, if we go back to records, he came to the court and told the court he was going to use, I think it was NetData or somebody. Is that
There
it?
was
NetData.
no data.
You're right.
NetData. And he stuck with NetData the whole time, and he did not go with us. And he had to have access to them because they took all their payments and everything through NetData, and then eventually all of the JPs went to NetData. They basically rebuked and went to NetData.
Right.
So we're telling them now, if they have a software system that works 10 times better for them and is integrated with everything that the county has and the county needs to work with, you can't do that. But it's making their office run successfully. I think as elected officials, they should have that power in their hands to say, hey, this is a system we want to use, and then they have a fund that's paying for it that would allow their office to run effectively. We shouldn't step on their toes and block them by saying, I want you to go this way when that software hasn't been totally developed to work
Right.
with their with the capabilities and everything they need to make their office run successful.
No, that's a great point. So and that's something that I feel like has been something that's been a kind of an unseen shadow that's kind of been following the IT department as it moved forward, was that there, because of some of the past things that had happened. So I want to make a clarification and a correction to the net data component of that, Commissioner Mims. When the net data was put in, it was not connected to the IT department's network. It was segregated, and that was before I was here. I guess that was something that
Yeah,
Tommy
before.
did.
I had to meet with
We
the-
eventually, because the IT department's job, in my purview, the way I see it rather, is to find solutions for the people. If you say, hey, I have this problem, or I want this thing, our whole goal is to find a way to make that happen and still be something that everybody can be happy with and be secure. So it's not if somebody said, hey, this thing is the thing that really works, the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to name a name, but there was somebody I spoke to a couple of years ago that was really upset because a change had taken place in the approval process for getting software on their computers. We said, yes, you can run this software on your computer, but they were upset just because they had to ask us if they could have it on their computer, simply by making a change that is an industry standard change. People are not allowed to install software on their computers on their own. They have to have the IT department involved if it's going to be touching our network. And that's something that every person with a computer has to deal with if there's software, right? I mean, you've seen it, the sheriff's office has seen it, the DA's office especially has seen it in a very real way. But I've seen trusted vendors that when they try to step in and fix a problem as to why their software is not working, and I'm telling you, I've seen this with my eyes in this building. I've seen vendors go in and try to reduce the security levels of our computers so that their software will work better. And I have to step in and stop it and say, no, you need to make your software work better. Don't reduce our security. And it worked. It happened because I forced it to happen. And that's all I'm talking about is that a great example, and what I was going to bring up was a camera system. You have a security camera system that was put in the courthouse a few years ago. IT department was notified about it when they were ready to go live, but they couldn't go live because they couldn't patch into our network without the IT department being involved, just as a matter of function, not authority, just function. And we said, who are you? What's going on? Why is there stuff plugging into it? We don't know anything about this camera system, and for all we know, even beyond security itself, we have no problem with a security camera being in the courthouse. Obviously, there's no reason we would ever oppose that. But the question that we have is this going to cause a bandwidth problem? If you plug it into our network, and now we've got cameras running, is the DA's office going to be able to do their stuff right? That's more stuff that we have to try to think
At that time.
So that's why it's in there.
Yeah, at that time, it would have slowed down because we weren't on fiber. And then also, I believe at that time, if I'm not mistaken, I do think I can remember that incident. I think at that time, I'm trying to use my words of liberty, I think there was a communication problem. I think when something like that is implemented, it should have came and brought y'all into the point at the beginning stages that this is going to happen and this needs to be done. So y'all be prepared to work with this company.
Yeah.
That's really what should have happened in that
Right.
incident.
Yeah,
But it didn't
absolutely.
happen.
That way we can ask
And y'all were
questions.
brought up at the tail end. But that's,
Commissioner Chapin, I remember you asking me about some policies, and that was one of the things I had wanted was some that we had talked about, and you seemed to be on board with, was to bring the IT department in early, and the approval is really, I mean, it is the word approved, and so I don't want to whitewash the word. The word is approved because if there's something that's going to be wrong, the IT department would say, I don't think this is a good idea, and there would have to be some kind of fix.
If somebody, let's put it this way. If somebody came to work and plugged in a flash drive and put something off their home computer that they didn't know they had a virus, and they plug into their work computer and put a program on and shuts this county down, then who's fixing to get the blame? First off, it's going to be IT. Why is our IT department letting this happen? So that's their job. And I think, and that's why we wanted the attorneys to look at this. Like I said, it's general enough that we can do business with people, but it protects us and the data of people that trust us to take care of their data. So.
And we're passionate about helping
there's times-
getting things working
there's
and
times
functioning.
with even Tyler Technologies, that we're trying to get something in place, but it's not necessarily IT, but they've got to get that program up to speed. I know we're working on doing some stuff with the Sheriff's Department on Encode, but we've got to wait on them to get everything in place. I mean, we'd like to do it today, wouldn't you, Nick?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, but we can't step in and do their job for them. They've got to do it, and then we'll do our part. And those are some of the things that's happening that we have no control over in the IT department. I can tell you, it's hard to find somebody with Tyler Tech that's up on. I mean, you used to GSA, LGS. I made a phone call one time. County clerk was having trouble, and it come to court 2 or 3 times. I said, not Mark, okay? This is in the early days. I said, I don't care if you have to fly somebody in a helicopter and drop them with parachutes. I want this fixed. They came in, and it was not the computer system. It was not their side. They were given the wrong GL codes to plug in, and they didn't have the right court cost assigned to the cases. So it wasn't the computer. Sometimes the fingers start getting pointed, and it's not necessarily one's fault, is what I'm saying. There's so many facets to IT, and they've got to depend on vendors. They're trying to respond to the elected officials and what their needs are. Sometimes there's, I talked to one of the judges. We're trying to work on a computer on the bench for one of the judges. The other judges don't want something installed, so we're trying to meet his needs. And I had a visit with him just last couple of days. So, but if you're working in multiple counties, this is just an example. If you're working in multiple counties, you don't know what vendors they've got and what IT programs they have. And is what they have going to mesh with our system? So they may not have Tyler Tech, they might have something else. And so IT's been contacted the other county to see what they have in place so we can try to work with Tyler Tech to make it happen for them here. but sometimes it doesn't happen overnight, if y'all
Understand?
understand.
No.
Okay, so, anyway, but we need something, and I think this, you know, I feel pretty good after having all these different reviews. I'd like for us to put it in place.
Well, Judge, I'll give some of the other commissioners a moment to say something if they want to. Then I kind of have, my final feelings on this and what I've talked to outside people about, and I'll say it then.
You want, I didn't hear you, Commissioner.
I had some information where I talked to some other groups about this, advisors within the state that works with counties and another entity like TAC. And so I just had two issues out of it that they kind of brought up to me that we should have talked about. And I think some of that's been discussed, so I'll give the floor to the other commissioners to say whatever they have to say first, and then I'll just say my last two recommendations on the policy.
Well, I guess, my feeling on it, there's still stuff in here I'm not sure of. Y'all brought up some good points. Commissioner Hill brought up about this, the IT director, and of course, this is the things that you was talking about that I had noticed in there. But I would still like to have someone else, that I trust to look at it, that I know knows IT stuff. They're not a county IT person. They're an IT person. And I was not able to do that over the weekend because weekend they weren't available. So I would still like to ask some questions about this before I give my final approval to it, that there's not something in here I missed, because I've told y'all several times, I know that there's a lot of things could be in here, and you're explaining it to us that need to be in here, and I understand that. But I want to make sure I haven't missed something in here. So that's my take on it today. I wouldn't want to vote on it today till I get some more clarification that everything is. Okay, but that's one person, that's just me.
Well, Commissioner Hill, when I was speaking with the council of governments, there was just, in which we've already went over those bullet points.
Sure.
In 3, it basically said that the request must be approved and implemented by the IT director. And that's why it brought back an understanding of what happened with Judge Davis. And from what I was told and talked to about, they said, Rashad, your court is going to be given that basic power to the IT director that said, hey, stop. I don't want to implement it. And that should come to—
You talking about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The recommendation I got was commissioners issued, the request must be approved and implemented by the commissioner's court under the direction of the IT director. So whatever he sees fit that's needed to be done in this instance, he comes back to the court and said, hey, think y'all should or y'all shouldn't let them come in and do this. Because that's a strong power that we're putting in the IT director's hand.
Yeah,
That's
it's a lot of
the only
trust.
thing he told me on that one.
It is a lot of trust.
Yes.
The IT director is over a component that affects absolutely every office in a very real and terrifying way. Yeah, if that trust,
But in the
this does require the
under
kind of trust. that we
IT
need.
direction, but at least there's some voting body that can say 2 or 3 or nobody say, hey, we don't even want to, let's look at it some other way first and come back to it, instead of just saying, hey, you have the right to tell the sheriff no on something that he wants to do in this jail, as far as cameras.
If you don't mind me just changing a word, telling somebody what they can do with the IT department's network. So the jail can do whatever the jail, matter of fact, the jail has cameras in there that don't touch our network at all, that in no way we support or anything, and if they go down, it doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't affect us in any way. But yeah, if the, anyway, you understand my.
I understand. And then the last one was under 6I, you can leave the convicted felony and the crime there, but take off any drug offense and family violence. Those are the last ones because they kind of made it tight to work with a broad range of companies to come in and do the scope of work that we're asking for. Those were just the two recommendations I had to the policy.
What else? Anything?
No, sir.
I'd also like to add that the justice offices are now on our network. They found it beneficial to be moved to under the purview of the IT department. And I've also spoken with adult probation, who's not currently on our network. They'd like to be on our network with all the restrictions and everything that come with it because of the benefit that comes from being under the IT department.
Yeah, Angela?
Correct.
So, I mean, the phone system, they manage the phone system too. The entire phone system.
Our entire phone system?
Yes, they have to.
Yeah, we're
There's a
also,
phone, they've got and the thing is, there's licensing for all these devices. They have to make sure the licenses, updates are done, and everything else.
I understand
yeah, we
that.
used to pay a lot to CenturyLink, I think, for the telephone system.
Yeah, we just saved some, we just saved quite a bit of money getting off CenturyLink and doing Vonage, and doing it through fiber optic, so.
Did you need this back? Well, did you need this
Yeah,
back?
I guess so. Well, I guess my concern is we've got some things on the agenda for vendors. And as I expressed, I wanted to have a vendor policy in place, so that was my main concern, was trying to get this done so we could do some consideration on some vendors. So, I mean, I don't know if we need to change some language or if we need to, if we could do it and then put it back on the next agenda for maybe a revision or something. I just trying to get something in place.
I'm not sure today, like I say, until I look at this and that can be done this week, I can have that taken care of this week. That's just for my sake. You still have three other court members here. I don't know what they're thinking. That it might, you might have a vendor policy in place right now. I'm just stating what my concerns, and I'd like to have the time to look at it. So I wouldn't feel comfortable putting it into place with any restrictions on it. I just wouldn't feel comfortable putting it into place till I'm satisfied that everything in there is good.
Well, you understand that I got Allison's clearance like Thursday.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying.
I had to talk to Eric
no.
on Friday. He was still looking over.
No, I'm not saying, Judge, that
Okay.
that I got too late for this. I'm just saying I didn't have time to do it. I'm not blaming nobody. I just, would like to have, because there's one person that I definitely want to talk to about it. And like I said, she just was not available this weekend to look at it with me. But, like I said, I don't know what the other court.
I mean, I'm with you on that. I'd like to have someone look at it, or the person you're talking about look at it.
All right, y'all wanna pass on this and put it on the next agenda or something?
Well, Judge, I guess at this time, I think that's.
I mean, if there's not a motion to
Yes,
approve,
I say we put it on I think that'll be the best way to do it, because we do need to visit this and come back to it, so put it on the next agenda. That gives y'all time to get someone to look at it, Mr. Dixon.
I'd just like y'all's support on us not entering into anything until we get this in place.
Don't have a problem.
All right, we'll pass on item number, let's see, make sure I got the right one. Item number 6. All right, number 7 is consider to take action on a quote for disaster recovery for information technology. You should have a quote, text fixed presentation on this. Can you get that light for me? I think if you just do the one, we'll be all right, because that'll give us. Wrong one.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's good. That ought to be good, shouldn't it, too?
That is good.
Let me see the date. This was taken, yes. Yeah, that one's,
June
yeah,
1st
through the
through
30th.
September 30th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we were trying to do is, this took a process, you can see this over 2 or 3 months. So we were trying to make sure that, you know, at least, some of these were updated, some of them were very expensive, so. If you wanna go ahead and tell me when you want me to change the slide.
Yeah, so this is a long-awaited presentation. We've been talking about disaster recovery for a long time, so I'm excited to finally be able to present this as a final request that we have. If you'll advance to the next slide. So the criteria that we were looking at for a disaster recovery company, and I feel like at this point we've been talking about it enough. I guess disaster recovery, y'all are familiar enough with the topic that we don't have to go into that. So there were criteria that they had to be able to satisfy right off the bat was they had to be encrypted with the appropriate encryption set by either policy or law. Cloud must be further inland than we are, mainly because we have hurricanes in our area. They must have the ability for us to be able to move to a secondary location in case of an emergency. So if something happens to our building and there was another building we had in place, we'd like to be able to grab laptops, move to that building, and continue to function. We felt that was important. They have to be able to have a month-to-month contract in case we want to cancel. We don't want to incur fees and things like that. Protect us from ransomware. That was a big component. Be purchasable through state contract and have a reasonable RPO and RTO. So if you'll advance, I'll explain those really quick. RPO is called the Recovery Point Objective. This is the frequency at which the DR service takes a snapshot of our system. The smaller the RPO, the better. We'll go into that in a little more detail later on, but just know that this is how quickly, how often it will take a snapshot of our stuff and send it up to the cloud and save it. The quicker the RPO, the less data is lost by our offices if all of a sudden a disaster strikes.
And how quick, just an idea, how quick is that snapshot?
He's fixing to show
Oh
you.
yeah, I'll show you all of them. Go advance to the next one, please. The RTO, the recovery time objective, is how quickly the service can get their system up and running in case of a disaster. The smaller the RTO, the better. So that means if all of a sudden a disaster strikes and our system is down, how long is it going to take them to stand up the backup copy of our system? Advance to the next slide. Okay, these are the quotes that we got. On the left-hand side, you'll see the company name. The top 2 companies submit.
That's the one you got.
Yeah, the top 2 companies, ADP and 1111, they submitted 2 quotes. That's why you see 2 quotes for each of those. But right away, encryption was necessary right off the bat. Judge, if you will go ahead and advance, you'll see that all of them have encryption, so we give all of them green check marks. Right, yes is better. Okay, so data contact. Go ahead and hit the next slide for me, please. Data contact is just the term that I used to determine whether the vendor can access our data. This doesn't mean that they will access it, it means that they can access it. A yes isn't necessarily a disqualifier, but no is better. Our command that you see on the very bottom one means that they cannot access our data unless we give them access, at which point we would be able to observe their actions while they're accessing our data. And that accessing our data is a very broad term. Typically what that means is they're just going to turn on a server, and at that point, the server's on right in front of them. They're not going to be digging through files. That's just, but I want to make sure that, again, I don't want to whitewash anything or mislead people. That's access in my book. So if you will advance, you'll see the, I'm a big fan of color. It makes a lot of sense to me, red, yellow, and green.
So the ones in green,
Yeah, you'll see it says no is better.
they cannot access our data.
Correct. They cannot access our data without us being involved, at least at the bottom one, without us being involved. The top 2 cannot. The keys, we're the ones that would have control of the keys. Next slide, or next, yeah. Service, this is how much help they are going to offer during normal operations as well as during a disaster. No matter what, this service will add complexity and responsibility to the IT department, but having experts on hand to help us maintain and execute it is highly recommended. disaster recovery is something that neither Mike nor I have degrees in. We don't have years of experience running our own disaster recovery system, which is why one of the things we were asking is, do you guys have the ability to, if all of a sudden lightning strikes over here, are we going to have somebody on the phone that we can call for help? And those people are going to be able to help us. Go ahead and advance. You'll see that the top 4 are full service and the bottom one is self-service. They have a more service option and that's included in the price, but it's still less helpful than the top 4. Go to the next one, please. RPO and RTO. This is what we just talked about. RPO is how often a snapshot is taken of the changes that have taken place in our data. The more frequently a snapshot, the better. This makes it so that less data loss occurs if a disaster takes place, because the last backup was taken a very short time ago. The lower the number, the better. And you'll see that on these options here, we have 3 of them that will take snapshots in less than a minute, less than 1 minute for every snapshot. Matter of fact, they explained it as every few seconds.
As ever what, Heck?
Every few seconds is what one of them said. One of them is just under 12 hours, and the last one I couldn't get them to give me an RPO and RTO on them for some reason.
Those first 3 are a minute?
Less than 1 minute. So those are very good times in my opinion, so we gave them that. Even our current backup system that we have takes snapshots every 4 hours. Just as a kind of a comparison. RTO, go ahead. RTO is how quickly the vendor service is capable of activating our disaster data center once they've been notified that we have declared a disaster. This number assumes that the entire data center needs to be activated. It's not always going to be the whole stack. If we have a problem with 5 servers, they can turn up 5 servers. But in the instance that absolutely everything comes down and all the servers get COVID or something, we can turn up everything in 2 hours for the top 2, less than 4 hours for the bottom or for the middle, and like I said, the bottom one didn't give me a time. Which all of those, in my opinion, are acceptable. If we have a absolute catastrophe, 2 hours of downtime is not bad. But again, those are worst case scenarios. Next for me, we're going to move all the way to the right-hand end that says SO, the Sheriff's Office, and we might spend a little bit of time on this one because they have a very unique situation. Their data, the amount of data that they have is substantially greater than any other server that we have, and it's growing every year. This is a unique combination of size and simplicity. It's easy to create, but it's expensive to store on the cloud. We can recover this server on our own, but we did include options that include backing up their stuff. So I want to clarify a couple things with the Sheriff's Office server. Their server, as servers go, is a very simple server. It's just a file server. It doesn't run any software. It doesn't have any databases on it. It doesn't translate email. It doesn't do anything at all except have a bunch of stuff on it. Most of that stuff is old stuff that they're not currently using. Well, that makes it so that these disaster recovery plans include features like having fast access to all this data. Odyssey is a very active program, and lots of the components that we use are accessed frequently. The Sheriff's Office, most of their stuff is old stuff that they don't access at all anymore, but we have to keep it by law. It has to be maintained forever. So that makes it so that if we pay for the same kind of top tier access that we are for the rest of the county, that's going to be very expensive. So we are backing up the Sheriff's Office data. We have it backed up just fine. As a matter of fact, I had an investigator ask me not too long ago for a specific file, and I was able to search all the way back to January for that file. We've got it backed up, and it's backed up in 2 separate places in addition to production, so that's 3 copies we currently have. However, both of those locations are within the 4 walls of our county, so we would like something
But they're different
outside.
locations, they're not in the same.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
But we would like something outside, something that's, again, further inland, at least 50 miles away. So that's why we would piggyback this off of our disaster recovery system, but it wouldn't be the same disaster recovery tier that the rest of it is. Because we can stand up that small portion that they're using currently, easy. If something happened right now to their server, in 15 minutes, I could have it back up and running from their perspective, and then we would work on fixing the old problem afterwards, from right now. Anyway, so that's why I included them in a separate component, because that's a significant portion. And just as an example, if you'll look at the top two from ADP, the only difference between the two quotes there is that one of them includes the sheriff's office and one of them does not. And you'll notice that that is a $27,000 difference in price per year just for the amount of data that they've got. So that's why we felt it was important to kind of separate that and create what we did on the top one, for instance, is that they will be backing up their stuff, but it would be on a different tier. I know it's a funny way of saying it, but it just wouldn't be on the quickly accessible, you got a server standing by at all moments kind of a backup. Does it make sense, or
What's the difference in that price, do you know of, for the ADP and the VCD?
What's the difference in the price?
Well, I mean, like, why is it, I mean, if they're that close,
Mhm.
they tell you the difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are
I mean,
just
it
two
shows
different companies.
Like $50 difference, but I mean, do you know what that is, the reason why?
No, I mean, it's just two different companies. I mean, their prices are whatever their prices were. I mean, VCDR, for instance, has a higher initial setup fee, but no, I mean, why they're the same price? It's
What's
just,
the rating on both of those, because they're so close?
oh, they're great. All of these options are great options.
You're comparing ADP and VCDR.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Because they're the only two that carries the sheriff's office.
Well,
But the service, if you look, there's some of them not checked.
I noticed it,
yeah.
Okay, some of the things
the
that,
RPO and the RTO.
Right, and they're a little more self-service at VCDR. They use the biggest difference between VCDR and ADP was that VCDR uses VMware to do snapshots and everything, and that would be more self-service because we have our own VMware. We would be in charge of the snapshots that are taken and sent over using vMotion and all that stuff that we would have to manage. ADP has a different appliance called a Rubrik appliance that would take all the backups here and then replicate it to their disaster recovery. And Rubrik is ADP using the Rubrik system. I know I didn't put that name up here, but is a very robust system. But all of them are effective tools that would all be able to do it. Now, why I don't have those numbers, I don't know. I've asked them and they couldn't get it to me in time. But yeah. Oh, and another difference is, well, the next thing we'll talk about there. Go ahead. Advanced form. Monthly cost, this is pretty self-explanatory. Monthly fees for backing up and storing our data. This fee can include services like testing, management, device leases, encryption, and connections. But the overwhelming majority of this monthly charge is simply storing our data at rest. Next. This one-time setup fee, pretty self-explanatory. Next. And this last part here on this, go ahead.
y'all need to look at that a second, though.
No, sir.
Okay, all right.
Failover costs. This is the sneaky guy. There's a difference between our monthly fees for backing up our stuff and having them store our data versus having to run our servers. If we have a disaster, the fees that come with running our servers are separate. They are not included in our monthly costs. Failover costs are what we pay when a disaster recovery site has to, quote, flip the switch and activate our data center in the cloud. These costs are assessed by the length of time that they have to run. Every disaster recovery vendor that we have ever spoken to has this sort of separate cost for failover. They are not worked into the original monthly fees because the amount of time that they must run are unpredictable. If something happened to our building, when does it get put back up? Matter of fact, one of the things I pursued was a total cost assessment. I wanted to be able to present to you guys an example. If this happens, it would wind up costing us blah or X, Y, and Z with different vendors. I couldn't do that because I spoke with TAC regarding our insurance because I wanted to be able to include that. And they said, don't even try to do that because if a tornado hits, there's a different deductible than lightning, there's a different deductible than terrorism, there's a different deductible than fire. They said, you're never going to have that cost. And I said, okay. So that's what's going on there. And I think after this, I just kind of cleared it off and left everything. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the one at the very top. This is the one that has all green check marks. It was not the one we initially set out thinking we were going to wind up liking. But after talking to people and hearing about this particular service, this one has the best full service service. And for the price, it is the most inclusive. So that's the one that we are recommending and asking specifically for. So that's the one that you do have a quote on. However, I did bring all the other, some of them are quotes and some of them are estimates. But I did bring the rest of them if you wanted to look at those as well. Okay. But anyway, there you go. And for our next slide, I think I just cleared everything off so that you can see everything as it is. So you can, without all of my,
So you kind of see the comparison.
yeah.
You're actually working on a company that actually does a risk assessment.
Yes, in my,
That will actually, all they do is go in, like if you're looking at a vendor,
right,
they'll actually do a risk assessment.
right.
To kind of score that company on risk. You want to explain it, since we're talking about this, because it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yes. So I was, in my search for the policy language, Smith County said that one of the things they do for their vendors is they have a contract with another company that I'm still talking to, and we're gonna have to get a policy on that, or not a policy, but a quote on that and everything, and I'll absolutely bring it up to you guys. But what they do is they look from an outside perspective. They dive into that company and they look and see how well they're following their, how much of a risk they have for being a problem in sense, or how much of a risk it would be to be able to do business with them, or are they going to get hacked, or what kind of stuff are they doing? Anyway, that was pretty useful, I thought.
And not all that expensive, right?
Right. Yeah, not very expensive at all from what I've seen so far.
Okay. But he's still working on that, so we didn't try to bring that today. But they did do an assessment on one of our vendors. So I don't know that we need to go into that, but. Pretty reasonable on the disaster recovery, a lot less. I think we had, the last time was $228,000, $68,000 sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we're working on some, one of the things that we had talked about was having a company that we can go to for help if there's something that's stumping us. And so there's definitely some needs that we have, but all of those costs together are coming out to be really reasonable, and I'm excited about being able to lump all that together and have more money to spend on the needs of the county and other areas.
Well, we got that quote, it's good to September,
September 30th.
Yeah, so I guess I can put that back on the policy on the next agenda if that's what the court wants to do. I don't know how you feel about it. If I want to suggest to wait on a vendor policy, I need to follow what I'm suggesting.
Right.
Oh, that sounds good.
So, is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, can we put that back on the next agenda?
Yes, sir.
But what do you think? I'm just curious. Y'all think that looks pretty good?
I think it served the purpose that we're looking at, have our data. Like I said, we're just paying for it to be stored. We're not paying to use it. And if a disaster does happen, yeah, it's gonna cost us more to retrieve it, but we would have it safely stored somewhere, like you said, away from here. You said 50 miles. I prefer to be further,
Right.
50, which I'm sure they
It's just
do.
an industry minimum, yeah.
Did you check in this company to see where some of their servers are at?
Yes. So in most of the companies, they actually asked us where we have three locations, which one would you like? And if I remember correctly, I think that one is in Virginia.
Okay. No, that's
More than 50 miles.
That's
Yes.
750 miles, so,
Yeah. I mean, the further away it is, the slower it is
yeah.
For
using,
retrieval.
But no,
But the less likely it is to
Yeah.
get.
the same hurricane ain't gonna hit us and them.
Yes.
don't say that. No, I think that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Well,
I think they proposed all
he's done a lot
components.
of work on this, so I
I'm sorry?
for putting that data.
I think they
together.
proposed
And I
all
think it was
components
easy
and
to
everything at
evaluate
fair
for
prices.
us too, so,
All right, then I'll head out and relieve Mike, so he can.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, so we'll pass on item number 7. On item number 8, Mike needs to address this one. Consider and take action on approval of a Google Cloud storage contract for the District Attorney's Office. Now, currently, they have Google storage account, okay? I went back and looking at it. It was supposed, I'll let Mike address it, but what I was concerned with is it was talked about unlimited for the price they were paid. This is separate from our IT department. This is something they have exclusive control over. So this is not an IT vendor. This is strictly for the district attorney's office.
Yes, and this was the original contract that was put through, I believe, in 2017, 18.
And I have
Before it passed
copies.
then,
At
just so
least-
y'all, or, you know,
Right.
know all the
One-
facts.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, just so the court knows all the facts, that this was an original contract that the court passed in 2017 or 18.
Are we in that contract to 25?
Well, Michael
Okay.
will explain a little bit further into that.
Mike, we're talking about the Google Cloud for the district attorney's office. Can you kind of give them where we're at on that
Yes, sir.
and the cost?
The cost, I wish I would have actually brought the other one. It's going up, but it's going up to $5,982.30 a year. Well, actually, that's actually going to be a year and a half cost. Went ahead and went for the 18-month option because it was cheaper. And it's going to take time if they ever do get to needing to pull this data down to a physical device. They would still need time in order to get it all off. It's up to, I think it was up to 50 or 51 terabytes worth of data, which I talked to several vendors. They were saying even if they employed a person to actually do this for them, they could only get a certain amount of data per day that would copy, and it would roughly take about anywhere from 4 to 5 months to get the data off of the cloud. So that's why I went ahead and told them, just give us the price for 18 months.
The current price is $25.92.
$25.92. So it's still a whole heck of a lot cheaper than us storing it on our side, because for what they're doing with it and the security that they have. I looked at several devices to get to the 50 terabytes worth of storage, because again, it's a very big storage amount. Just to get that device was going to roughly cost around $9,000 to $10,000 just for the device, if not a little more, if we stored it ourselves.
Okay, I'm going to ask a stupid question now. How does this work with what we just talked about, the data recovery? Is any of this, that's on its own cloud?
They're doing this specifically for the DA's office. And Scott Holden has been the one working on that with Mike, because he was negotiating with him from the DA's office to try to get this in place. Correct me if I say
No,
anything.
you're right. You're perfectly
And
correct.
so he brought it to us. They're trying to get this implemented because they need the extra storage space, because they have a tremendous amount of data. Kind of like the sheriff's office. It's one of those that takes up a lot of space, and there's a lot of things they can't get rid of. It's got to be stored. So,
Well, that answers my
but
question.
this is totally separate from our IT department.
Yeah, they started this up because we were at one point saying, hey, you need to get your data down. They had 14 terabytes worth of storage on our current stack, and so they reached out. They had funds of their own at the time, and they were They went and ahead and said, we'd like to use our money to go ahead and have it where we're put on the cloud. So the information was stored to where all their employees and only their employees could get access to that data.
And one thing that concerned me is looking back at the other contract, even if it was language in there, that they couldn't go up on the price. Vendor never signed a contract. So the one that was filed in the clerk's office was never signed. So we couldn't have held them to it anyway. So I'm watching that real close, so y'all, I'm finding a few of them that did not get signed and filed with the clerk, so.
So when would this be implemented if we vote on that immediately?
If you vote on it today, it will get it implemented as soon as the contract signs, whenever the judge.
And then it'll be good till
Signs.
1st of 25.
Correct.
Okay.
And just for clarification, originally this was coming out of county records fund, so that's where it would still come from. If the court
It's a
moves.
special fund to take that out of credit.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for me?
I want to make sure.
Clarification?
So it's $5,982.30.
Correct.
Okay.
That is the, that the monthly charges will be $332.35 a month for 18, or no, I'm sorry, that was,
$332.35.
yeah,
That's what it's showing.
$332.35, and I was trying to remember, it's like, how many people in the DA's office
It
is
says
eight,
18 on this quote.
well, 18th month on the,
Oh, that's per month.
that's the monthly charges. Yeah, there's, I believe, I want to say there's close on 16 people, 16 or 17 people. I know the contract went up on quantity of people that were accessing it.
Did they bill us monthly? Maybe do they bill us monthly?
No, they
I just
bill
want
us
to see
yearly.
if it come out exactly.
Yearly?
as that.
Yearly.
Yes, sir.
So it would be that $59.82.30 for 18 months? Okay. All right. Well, they've been chomping at the bit to get this, so.
Yeah, well, at a certain point, which I believe is the end of this month, I think is the 26th, I think is what the date was, they will be locked in to not add any more data into their storage. So if we don't do something, then once the 26th happens, they'd have to find some other avenue in order to store any new data, any new court information. So it would kind of lock to where they could do their jobs.
I understand their pain.
I told you, come by my office.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Google Cloud storage contract for the district attorney's office for an 18-month. And they'll be billing for $59.82.30 would be the contract. I'll entertain that motion.
I want to ask one question before we do. It says customer receiver credit amount of $1,080. Is that before the 59 or is that? It says we're on the second page, receiver credit for the license that will be replaced upon execution of the order document.
I think that was the leftover of the 1 year that would be still left in the current contract, which is.
Do you know if that was figured into the 5,900 or not?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I
Scott's
wasn't
the one
involved in
that
this.
negotiated,
All right.
said.
Correct.
Okay.
It might have also been a governmental discount. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Scott.
You asked for a motion?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Thank you, Michael.
No problem. Thank you, Jim.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is consider to take action on interlocal contract between Anderson County and East Texas Council of Governments for the county 911 database maintenance. Our county 911 address, in which will begin September 1, 2023 and end August 31st, 2025.
Judges.
Everybody should have a copy of that in their packet.
And this is something we've done plenty of times before, Your Honor.
This is just a renewal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We gotta make sure we keep doing our 911 I'll entertain a motion to approve an interlocal contract between the Anderson County and East Texas Council of Governments for county 911 database maintenance, to take care of our 911 addressing, from September 1, 2023 to August 31st, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. All right, item number 10 is consider and take action on Texas Department of Motor Vehicles imposition of optional fees for the year 2024. And of course, we got to do the fees. And this is for the tax office in the auto registration.
We are at our max.
Okay.
What is it show on our deal? That's another.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, and that's probably one I should know. Looking at this, it said may not exceed $10, and it says revenue must be credited to the county road and bridge fund. Is that the?
We don't have a road and bridge fund.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this says it must be accredited to there. So how do we do that?
I don't know, because we don't have a road and bridge fund. I'd have to look into it, I don't
Well,
know.
under the statute, it said it must be, so I'm
Right.
not sure where you're.
So I guess we need to check on that one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And do you know the max that we collect for that?
That was
$10.
That's what the other road and bridge fund did away with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably, that's what they
It
told
was
us.
not here since I.
Okay.
So it must have been done away with before I got here.
Okay.
The only one we've had is
Do you know when we created this one?
the general fund.
When did we create
My
this?
understanding for statute, you don't have to have a road and bridge fund, that's why it was consolidated.
That a long time,
How long?
$10, long time.
Say that again, Megan, I'm sorry.
From my understanding, the statute is you don't have to have a road and bridge fund, that's why it was consolidated into the general fund. Just like we could have a jury fund, but we don't, we used to.
Okay. So you think
And maybe that, you know, the $10 offsets what is spent in road and bridge. I don't know, I have to
I
look.
think there was a line item maybe in the revenue.
There is.
Okay.
But
You think
it's
that's maybe
saying
where it's
must be
applied?
credited to the county road and bridge fund. I'll have to look into it.
Okay.
I don't know.
all right.
We won't follow the law, Megan.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. It's just like the jury fund, it's the same thing. I'll look into it.
Okay. In the meantime, we need to go ahead and approve the fees. So, I'll entertain a motion to approve, the imposition of the optional fees from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles for the year 2024. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 11, consider and take action on a flood damage prevention ordinance, Article 1 statutory authorization, finding of fact, purpose and methods, Section A statutory authorization. Christina's here, so if anybody's got any questions. My understanding, I'll just state it, and if somebody's got questions. Essentially, we needed to bring our ordinance up to the new state standards. Some new language was added in, okay? and it's highlighted for you. So she was just trying to make sure that that was brought up to state statute into compliance, so. I'll entertain a motion to approve, the flood damage prevention ordinance, Article 1, statutory authorization, finding of fact, purpose, and methods, Section A of the statutory authorization. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so ordered.
And that pertains to residential and non-residential.
Thank you for putting that together, Christine. Okay. Next item, Alan Fox called me with Forest Service, and this is item number 12. Consider to take action on the purchase of fire suppression chemical foam mix from the Texas Forest Service for the 13 volunteer fire departments to assist them in fighting grass fires due to the extreme dry conditions. And of course, the first thing is I asked Megan, how would we need to go about the purchase and the funds, and where would that come from? So
I think out of the miscellaneous departments, it's just a one-time thing, it'd
just,
be fine.
okay, so just
Other.
under that one laundry list of other
Yes, sir.
expenses, okay.
But it might turn out not to be a one-time thing if this is, do they have the ability to use this with their equipment they have now? It
That's
just
what I-
runs through the
I know
system?
Slocum set up with foam, but I don't know if the rest of them.
No, I don't think they are.
I mean, I don't.
There's times when they need it.
That's what he was
Christina?
saying on these grass fires, as dry as it is, he said they really need this. And he kind of explained how they mixed it, so I'm sure he can help.
Well,
And
that-
working
if
with
they can
Christina,
mix
make
it
sure they
and
know how to
Run
mix
it
it
through their
properly.
system. No, I'm fine with that. This might be not a one-time cost. Might be something we need to look at yearly, that we purchase this for them so they have access to this phone.
Okay.
Was any foam used yesterday on 287?
I do believe some of the Freestone County had some in their trucks.
That's what I thought there was. A foam truck came down.
Yeah, I was listening to them on the radio. I think they even actually talked about the one that had phone that showed up, so.
I just didn't know if there's special applicators for that foam.
He just said that you just take and, there's a certain mixture.
It looked like
Putting in
it's still in the water
so
truck.
many gallons of water, and, so it didn't sound like it was real complicated to do.
I think you just mix it in your tank.
Yeah. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of fire suppression chemical foam from the Texas Forest Service for the 13 volunteer fire departments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Next item. Consider and take action on the 2024 sheriff's and constable fees. And of course, that has to be set every year for the following calendar year. If there's not any questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the sheriff's and constable fees for 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. All right, discuss and take action on the purchase of a copier for elections department to be paid from capital outlay. Casey's needing a color copier. From what she explained, is making the packets and the instructional packet information and offer judges and other purposes. And so she has a copier. We can put it on, if this is approved, then we can put that other one on another agenda as how we're going, what we're going to do with it. It still works, so the copier is good, but it's not a color copier. Okay? And so, yeah, I think you got a quote in there. Misty was getting quotes for, and she actually got the price down just a little bit. It was a little higher than that. It's $8,451.11, be the purchase price.
And where we take this?
Capital outlay, like the agenda
Capital
item
outlay.
says. I did
Yes.
do a budget amendment, to move, I wanna say 5,000 or so out of copier rental, that is excess funds in there, into capital outlay to take care of some of this.
Why is this not one of the copies you'd rent? I know we rent a lot of them and purchase some.
It's more cost effective to buy them now instead of lease them.
I asked the same question. So,
All right.
well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the quote, to purchase a copier for the elections department be paid from capital outlay.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so ordered. Discuss and take action on the bid previously awarded to Capital Elevator at a regular meeting on June 26, 2023 for modernization of the elevator for the AgriLife building at 519 North of Sycamore. Megan, you asked this to be put on the agenda.
I wanted to update the court on where we were on this project. I have emailed Mr. McAdams 3 times, and I've talked to him twice. He hasn't emailed me back with the plans for the project. The last time I spoke with him, he said he was having trouble getting his performance bond, which is required by statute. I spoke with the district attorney, and she recommended that the court authorizes me, if y'all want, to send him a letter stating, respond back with your plans, because, we're at a standstill. And then, within give him so much time, and then if he doesn't respond, then that's basically forfeiting his bid.
And how much time are you thinking about? 30 days?
30 days, whatever the court wants, but yeah, that sounds about a good time.
Did he ever give you any written,
No, I have emailed him 3
anything in
times.
writing at all?
No,
Or
sir.
Did he ever say,
He just said he was
respond
having.
in writing?
No,
about being
I
turned
never
to
received
like
anything from him in
commissioners
writing. I have not received anything from him in writing.
Okay. What do you want to try to do in there?
I know the
I'll say
timeline.
she just needs permission.
Give him a 30-day notice?
I don't know if 30 days is a good time. That's just the first thing that
No,
popped
that's-
into my head.
yeah.
It's something we're trying to get taken care of, so it needs to get to rolling, but I don't know if 30 days is appropriate or not. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind was 30 days.
30 days sound good to me.
Commissioner Mims, you got any feeling on that?
And also, I'd send him an affidavit, because the court said to get him to sign something that it was gonna be a turnkey, that there wasn't gonna be an additional cost. He didn't sign that either. So,
Yeah, I would say 30 to 45 days max.
Because we're close to 2 months on
I'd say 45 days.
Yes, sir.
That sounds good to me.
Written consent, yes, sir.
All right.
it. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve, authorizing the county auditor to send a notice to Capital Elevator to respond with his, how do you need that worded? What is, I want to make sure.
requesting the required items needed
The insurance needed.
and the bond, performance bond,
What was
And
in the bid, the bond performance? and the letter-
insurance, and the letter
and the letter
that the court was
Showing
requiring.
that it was turnkey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that all right with you?
So required
And
items.
45 days,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay. And you're gonna send that certified letter?
Of course.
Okay, all right, so, I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 16 is consider to take action on the preliminary plat for Magnolia on the Trinity RV Park located off Anderson County Road 2120. And that was, I've got the copy of the plat if you want to look at it.
Yes, sir. What we have here is, this is Magnolia, it's Magnolia on the Trinity RV Park. You go down 294 and you'll turn on 2120, 21, And, it used to be old oil field land over in there, and they've developed it and worked it and built the road and everything. They paid all their payments to Mark Staples' office, county clerk. We have all their fees that went through the checklist. Christina's here. Her and Miss Kathy's been working with them, and they've met all the requirements we've had asked, except for the road maintenance request, and the approval by TxDOT driveway entrance is not off of a state road, so therefore that doesn't have to be done. And in a location of wells, and on that location of wells in the state, in our checklist, it states water wells, gas, and oil wells were acceptable. The problem we come up with is where oil well is acceptable, because therefore that is old oil field territory, and there's a lot of undocumented wells and lines that are coming into play right there. So that's the only issue we have with that one. Is that right, Ms. Crockett? From you and Ms. Kathy's standpoint? Yes.
Any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve, and this is the preliminary plat, so approve the preliminary plat for Magnolia on the Trinity RV Park located off Anderson County Road 2120. Entertain that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. I got one question. Is this one got, is there gonna be private roads in this that they need to put signs on? Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
That's another one of those that you keep reading in
Well,
the local paper
I
that
understand.
a guy comes to court and talks about, so.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so ordered. Hey, it's in our policy, and I didn't realize it was there, so I'm just asking the question to make sure. That's all. Item number 17, consider and take action on awarding the Anderson County Depository bid, our treasurer, Tara Holiday. And I'm gonna tell you, that thing was thick.
Yeah, there's,
She had to do a lot of work to go through it, so.
there's two of them. We got two bank depository bids. One from,
I think, did the court have I think we've got
yeah. You want
your
me-
recommendations or whatever? Okay, good.
and then,
Your breakdown. Go ahead, Terry, I'm sorry.
my recommendation, we received one from Commercial Bank of Texas and Prosperity Bank, which we currently are with Prosperity Bank. And if you look at the breakdown of the fees, my recommendation to the court is to stay with Prosperity.
When we did open the bids, you could see there was, CBT had a lot of fees, so. And Prosperity is, no charge on a whole lot of stuff.
As long as your balance stays. It's 5,000.
So,
I don't think we have. a
Yeah, that's to
problem
earn
with that.
interest.
Huh?
On Commercial Bank to earn
Oh,
interest.
commercial
Yeah.
bank. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You had to keep a balance to make sure you still gonna get them fees. And Prosperity was no minimum.
And they're gonna give us 50 basis points, which is more than commercial.
essentially half the percent.
And your recommendation is stay with Prosperity.
Stay with Prosperity. Mhm.
Yes.
All right,
I'll put in form a motion that we stay with Prosperity, accept the bid from Prosperity Bank.
okay. Motion by Commissioner Hill to accept the bid from Prosperity Bank for our depository contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Appreciate all your work on that. And help me remember, I've got the other copy, Terry. When I sign off on that, I've got the other copy that we need to do both. Cause you need one and Mark needs one. Okay. Oh, good, okay. All right.
Honorable Mark Staples.
Wow. All right, consider and take action on the 2023 proposed tax rate, which will fund the 2024 budget. I wanted to you know, after our discussions the other day, the court seems to at least want to consider going down below the voter approval rate. Did you have something you needed to? Oh,
I was just gonna, I have to
copy?
present the
Yeah.
rates and the,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
you not ready for me to do that yet?
No, that's okay. I wasn't trying, I didn't see you come up there, I just, I knew that was in your packet, what you were presenting.
Uh-huh.
Y'all did get a copy of that, right?
Yes,
From
sir.
Margie? Okay. One is the general fund, the other page is the farm market flood control, okay? Go ahead, I'm sorry, Margie.
Okay. Some of these numbers y'all have already seen before in the budget hearings, but I am required to read them to you, so. In the general fund, the total appraised market value was $8,073,050,705. Total assessed value was $4,672,689,805. And that reflects the homestead cap adjustment, exempt property, and ag loss. The total value before your over 65 disabled person, disabled veteran freezes is $4,222,218,335. That is a difference between this year and last year of $856,903,598. Okay, the taxable value after the over 65 in your freezes is $3,664,467,377. Less your freeze values of 500.
Second page.
So you have one? Your freeze values of $557,750,958. And that is a loss to our freeze value with the freezes. That is a loss of $960,372. Your taxable value of new property is $57,496,745. This does not include in the certified values. Sanderson Farms was not included in that. And they had a taxable value, a new taxable value of $107,530,019. So that actually, not certified, but that actually leaves your new taxable value of $165,226,764. And of course, last year's new value was $46,900,000. I can't read. I'm sorry. $46,099,612.
Yes.
Okay. The farm to market flood control, the appraised market value and the total assessed are the same. The taxable value before your freezes is a little bit different, which is $4,220,054,937. Taxable value after your freezes is $3,651,501,863. And the less your freezes is $568,553,074. I did not put the loss due to freeze. I'm sorry, it won't be a whole lot, but your total taxable value for new property, again, is $57,414,815, plus your Sanderson's Farm of $1,164,944,834. Of course, that is not That is the figures that I used to calculate the taxes, but it is not, was not certified.
And that was their abatement.
That was their abatement, yes, sir.
Expired, so
Yes,
they're not under abatement anymore.
correct,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
correct. Okay, your tax rates. For the general fund, your no new revenue rate is .452101 per $100. That's for your general fund. And your FMFC is .017376 per $100. Your debt rate, which is a little less this year, is .056510 per $100. The general fund voter approval rate is .58774. Your FMFC is .018193, which is a total of .605933. Then we had sales tax, which our sales tax this year, as y'all probably all know, has increased. So that adjustment is .124690 per $100. The unused increment rate, which we have from last year, .026650, and that gives you your total voter approval rate of .507893. On this unused increment rate, we've heard use it or lose it. They say, no, don't use it or lose it. They're gonna do something different with it next year, but nobody seems to say exactly what they're gonna do with that unused increment rate. So, that voter approval rate does include that.
So that's the 2.5.
Yes, yes. And of course, y'all know if we go over that, we have to have an election. If you go under it, you don't. So,
We don't wanna be there.
no, we don't wanna be
No,
there.
sir.
Is that it?
Anything further?
No.
Okay, all right. After our discussions the other day, and it seems to be that the court at least wants to look at, going down from the voter approval rate to try to decrease the tax rate. So, one thing, I needed to get some questions answered, and I think I've gotten them answered now, and Megan, and Margie, we kind of did a call to Connie, and as long as you have a fund balance in the debt service, okay, and we do, what is it, about 2 million?
A little over 2 million.
Okay, so if we wanted to go down a cent on the debt service, we could do a penny right there. Okay, so that'd be 1 cent reduction. We could use the fund balance. She's confirmed that we can use the fund balance. Of course, we talked about using that fund balance to pay down some of the bonds. But if we want to do something different and try to reduce the tax rate, a cent right there in the foreign market flood control, but always the tax rate, if there were not a fund balance, then we have to assess a tax rate and debt service to take care of our principal and interest payment. We don't have a choice. And I'm sure y'all, I'm saying that for everybody that's, in the courtroom. And so if we went down a cent and used the fund balance to pay a cent, and I just kind of ballparked it, I didn't, but it's a cent on tax rate's about somewhere between $440,000 and $450,000, okay? So we could take that from fund balance and pay the principal and interest payment. So there's a cent, okay? And so if we wanted to go down a little bit on the foreign market flood control, let's say half a cent, okay? And then take a little bit more out of fund balance in the general fund to offset that cost. In other words, we could maybe increase each of y'all's road and bridge construction money from fund balance to offset that. So that's a cent and a half, okay? And then a cent out of the general fund. Then I think we're pretty close to it. And I know there's gonna be changes that are proposed, but some of the stuff might not have to change.
That would match it.
And the thing about it is, the reason I put that 400,000 in there, because I knew y'all needed it. And so if we could do that, and I was gonna suggest, once we got into the workshops, if you wanted to take a little more out of fund balance to put in road and bridge construction. But if we go all the way down to like 45 cents, that's $2 million. And it's gonna be hard to, I mean, I've talked to other county judges just to get their opinions. One in particular said that it happened in the prior years when that judge, the new judge took office right after the other judge retired or resigned. He'd done that for about 3 years. They had to go borrow money to make payroll. And I don't want us to be in that. I know we got a fund balance, but I think y'all don't want to.
No,
you don't
sir.
want to suck that
Deplete it.
thing down
No, we're
because
not.
you don't know what's going to happen.
But I guess today, my question, we vote on this day, we still have the ability to, during talks, to sit down and try to lower that to whatever we come up with. That's
Yes.
what
Yes.
we do today. We just can't go higher.
Yeah, we have to, what date is that?
28.
The 28th.
28.
We have to the 28th
Okay.
to change our tax
Okay,
rate.
well, I'm fine
Well,
with
you
that.
can go
So we
higher, but I
sit
mean, it's the
down
voter
and-
approval rate,
But-
so.
but what I-
want to go higher.
But
We
if-
can approve this today.
Yes, sir.
If y'all want to.
But hold on. Before we go that deep,
Okay.
if you're understanding what Judge is saying, from my standpoint, what I take on this is, last time we had met here in court on Wednesday, we all expressed our concerns about the tax rate and going to the voter approval tax rate. That voter approval tax rate under the law is what we had to go to, and that's why we were having a 7 cents decrease. If I'm not mistaken today, Judge is proposing around a 9. I know last year we were, I think some of us, I know myself, proposed 5. I think some of y'all proposed 4, and we made it at 3. We met at 3 cents. Due to the voter approval rate last year, and we all didn't understand and know that because it was the first year it come upon to hit us. So then we found out later on we could have went a little bit higher. Again, I wanted to go to a 5.
Last year, we used a little bit of the unused increment rate.
Yes, ma'am. But if Judge is giving us, and I've done my own homework, I hadn't talked to none of y'all, this is kind of where I was at, the standpoint, before when we walked out of Wednesday's meeting. If Judge is giving us 1 cent on the debt service, and on the foreign market, he's going to 0.5 cent. Let's take out that 0.5 cent and go.
1 cent on the general fund.
Yes, sir. And go 1 cent on the farm to market, go 1 cent on the general fund, go 1 cent on the debt service. We'll be at a 10-cent tax decrease. So last year, if we would have really stuck to our guns and stayed at 5, but we didn't understand the law and what the voter approval tax rate was, we'd have went to a 5% tax decrease. I mean, a 5 cents tax decrease last year. That means this year we doubled that, gave the people back more, and we can go to a 10-cent tax increase. I think if we go to a 10-cent tax increase, we'll still have the cushion we need and everything to work with. And I think when we come back on Wednesday, we can go through and we can sit down with everything that's in the budget and come to imbalance and figure out what all we need to do as far as salaries, raises, everything, make it all meet with that 10-cent tax decrease overall for the people. We're actually giving them something back. That's adding 3 more to the voter approval.
3 more cents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'll be a total of 10 cents. What do y'all think about that?
The first 7 is just gonna get them back down.
7 is just gonna get what the law said we had to do, no matter what.
Because their evaluation
Yes,
is
sir.
like
That's correct.
so high.
But if we add 3 to it, I believe we can come and meet this, because he even just proposed.
I just don't want it all to come from the general fund.
So he's around a 9 now.
We're trying to find a way
From
not
what we
to
asked
take so much
from
out of the
what we-
general fund.
I mean, I may be wrong with
Because
that,
I'd
but
like
is that,
to leave as much as we can in there.
No, I think we agreed there that, I mean, we need to leave some in there. We're not trying to
Yes,
spend
sir.
it all, but I think what this court's agreeing on today, we might have the opportunity this year to help people with their taxes when they're getting hit the
Yes, sir.
hardest. And it's gonna increase 10% next year.
Yes,
They're
sir.
only getting 10% increase this year. Next year, they get 10% increase on that. So in the following years, if it's a little difficult, we still might be able, but I agree with you. I would like to shoot for 10 cents. I haven't had time to look at all of that yet, but I like the idea of 10 cents. And as long as when we vote on this today, we still have the ability to do it, so I'm good to go. We'll meet Wednesday and we'll.
What I'm thinking is we could take some from the general fund on the fund balance to pretty well get us to where the proposed is at. and I know we gotta deal with the Veterans Office, and there's some other things.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to
So,
discuss.
I understand, but I'm trying to find maybe a happy medium here.
I think that's a good medium. I think
So-
10 cents is kind of
Yeah.
what everybody was looking at. And I mean,
But I needed to find out on the debt service to make sure we were doing what the law required, so.
Okay.
Do y'all think we need to just approve? The only thing we're gonna have, well, we can advertise it, but when we actually adopt the tax rate, if we look at doing something like that,
Be less.
then we can adopt a lower tax rate than what this is.
Yes.
I wouldn't wanna advertise something lower
No,
and then have to raise it.
no,
after
No,
it's
we can't,
advertised.
no, we're not
sir.
interested in that. We want it. If
Okay.
this is fine,
What it is, and we'll work on it.
yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
That's supposed to be, right?
Have you got the wording for the motion? Is there,
I gave it to you.
oh, Lord.
Here it is.
You don't know what my desk looks like after putting all this stuff together.
It was in your folder.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You can keep this.
Hey, it's been a while. Let me tell you.
Is this yours? I can get this.
All right. That doesn't mean I'm about drinking either.
Yeah, I
I was up here
don't.
trying to put a lot of this together by myself, and then Lisa showed up Sunday afternoon. Okay.
Well, I think this was yours. I didn't have.
I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion if you want me to read it from it, or one of y'all wanna read it.
I'll read it for you if you need help. You can do it if you want to.
Can make this copy.
I don't care if you want.
It's up to you. I'll read the motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, I move to make a motion that we set the proposed tax rate for 2023, which will fund the 2024 budget for a total combined rate of .507893, consisting of .451383 in the M&O rate and .056510 in the debt service fund.
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered.
It's gotta be a record.
We gotta raise our, well,
Oh, yeah, it has to be.
It's gotta be a
vote.
record vote.
okay. Do you wanna do it just, we'll
Roll
start
call.
down here with Commissioner Chapin. Is that an aye?
Aye.
Commissioner Mims?
Aye.
Judge McKinney's an aye. Commissioner Dixon?
Aye.
Commissioner Hill? All right, that ought to work pretty good. Should it more? Okay, all right. Is there a form that you have that we need to sign off on?
This is for Margie. That was for Margie. She has to post it in the paper.
Okay, all right, but we'll need to sign that, to put it in the minutes. Okay. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to set the date for the public hearing for the 2024 budget and 2023 tax rate. And the motion is in writing there. Somebody want to read that into, as a motion, or I don't mind, I'll do it, whatever.
No one has it but you and Rashad.
Okay, I move to make a motion to set August the 28th, 2023 at the regularly scheduled meeting in Anderson County Commissioners Court for a public hearing on the 2024 budget and the 2023 tax rate. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? So ordered. All right, good deal. All right, item number 19 is discuss and take action, setting the dates for public hearing. Well, okay, I'm sorry, we done got
We
that.
done it.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't have a check mark by it yet, okay. Consider and take action on a quote from East Texas Council of Governments to perform an IT audit for Anderson County. The thing about it is I didn't want to change what, the court requested, and I told you I'd put that back on. So I did, the quote for Synergy, I just wanted to give you an update on this, and I assume we're not gonna take any action on that, so. But on, East Texas Council of Governments, Commissioner Mims, indicated that, he talked to David Cleveland, who was here at the meeting, because we were doing the fiber optic director at East Texas Council of Governments, and they said they could look at it and they may could do it for free. We do have a proposal in there for it, the exact same thing that Synergy was looking at for $0. As a member of the COG, we have, that's some of the things and benefits that we can take advantage of. So I'm just making you aware of it. We'll have to put this back on the next agenda if everybody's agreeable on that, on both of these, or do y'all want me to combine both of them so we can just look at both of them, see what you wanna do, or what?
That's fine with me.
I just wanna make sure I word the agenda right. Or do you want me to, use the one that's,
Yeah, I mean,
that's proposed?
there's part of that, you talking about the agenda item we sent in?
Yeah, there's one that,
Yeah, it adds to them that or possible, contract to assist ID department for Anderson County. I'd still like that to be on there.
well, can we do that in a separate one or something?
Yeah, it can be in a separate, it can be an agenda item on its own,
Is that all right?
if you want to.
Yes,
Okay.
but they need to, we had arranged to have representation for that. We canceled it because of the way the wording was.
Okay, all right.
So, yes, that can be a separate agenda item to just discuss.
Right, that way the other two are on the same playing field.
Okay.
That they're out.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
You want me to include those two, just put those both in one item, since we can look at both quotes?
Off one item, if we can look at both quotes, that's fine with me.
Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So, thank y'all.